Hello and welcome to Buckden Towers, a hidden gem in Cambridgeshire, England, and a place that holds centuries of secrets within its ancient walls. Over the years, this stunning site has been more than just a residence for bishops. It's been a backdrop to some of the most turbulent events in English history. From royal prisoners to the struggles of the Reformation, Buckden has seen it all. Let's dive into 5 dramatic moments that defined Buckden Towers. Each one reveals another layer of its mysterious past, starting with a high-ranking church official's shocking fall from grace. First up, Cardinal Thomas Wolsey, a powerful figure in Henry VIII's court. In the 1520s, after falling from favour, Wolsey was briefly held under house arrest right here at Buckden Towers. His failure to secure Henry's divorce from Catherine of Aragon made him a marked man, and his downfall ultimately paved the way for the English Reformation, forever altering the course of English religion. Then there was Catherine of Aragon herself, Henry VIII's first queen. Following her separation from the king, Catherine spent a brief but significant time at Buckden in 1533, resisting pressure to relinquish her title. Her stay here represents a moment of intense personal and political conflict, with the Queen herself standing firm against the King's ambition. During the English Civil War, Buckden Towers became a casualty of religious strife. While it didn't see major battles, the political unrest shook its foundations, leaving the building vulnerable to neglect and decay, as England's religious and historical sites fell into disrepair. As time wore on, Buckden passed through various owners, eventually falling into haunted legend. Ghost stories emerged, including sightings of Catherine herself. These tales kept Buckden alive in local folklore, casting a shadow of mystery over its history. Finally, in the 1950s, the Claretian missionaries purchased the site, breathing new life into Buckden Towers. Now a religious retreat and conference centre, it stands as a reminder of resilience, evolving from a place of political and religious upheaval to one of peace and reflection. Join the Catholic Unscripted team as we explore the history of Buckden Towers, where we were keynote speakers for the 2024 Catholic Man UK annual conference, in a place where history and mystery come together. Stay tuned and don't forget to like, share, subscribe and hit that bell for more stories from England's hidden past. Hello and welcome to Catholic Unscripted here at the wonderful Buckden Towers with my good friends.
Gavin Ashenden.
Wrong order.
Mark Lambert.
So Gavin, tell us about this wonderful place where we're at for Catholic Man UK conference in the UK.
Well, it's a very old Catholic building. It's half palace, half castle, and it goes right back to the 12th century. So some very important people have been here or lived here. Hugh of Lincoln, who was a famous bishop. Robert Grosseteste, which is a very difficult name to pronounce and quite foreign to us all, but he was a famous scientist, and he was an immensely important man in the history of science and the way in which the Catholic Church saw science as being a tool from God to discover the universe. There was Edward I was here. Henry VIII came. He brought Catherine of Aragon. That wasn't a very good thing. She spent her last year here before she died. Catherine Howard was here before she was beheaded. And then it went over to the Anglicans, and we don't talk about that because we're not really interested.
And we'll walk and talk. Let's show you around. So perhaps we'll go down to the gates, shall we, and see who was here. We've got this lovely plaque here, Buckden Palace, residence of the Bishops of Lincoln, circa 1186, 1838.
There's some of the names that I'm very carefully digested.
Tell us, Gavin, about Dr. Holmes Eddleston.
I'd rather tell you about Thomas Wolsey.
I thought you might.
because there's an argument on the internet at the moment saying Thomas Wolsey was the Archbishop of Canterbury. Actually, he was the Archbishop of York, and people didn't know that. So it's a wonderful place to be stepping in the footsteps of Catholic history. And if you turn around, you will get the man who has come back. He's disappeared. Look at that. This is the man who's been organising the whole event. We want to welcome to our listeners, and we credit for doing the most marvellous weekend.
It's James Leatherland, everybody, from Catholic Man UK, who has invited us here this weekend to talk to these wonderful Catholic men in this fantastic place. Tell us about Catholic Man UK, James.
So Catholic Man UK has been an organisation set up by a friend of mine, Samuel Baker, and myself. And for the last 8 years, we've been trying to get the message out there to live a life of authentic Catholic masculinity, whereby they live a life of true fatherhood, which is devoted to a good interior life, purity, called to virtue, and to try and transmit that to their families and to their friends, their neighbours, and to show fraternal support to each other as well.
And if we put Mark Lambert next to you, is it true that only men over 6'2"?
Yes, this is absolutely well.
I've been invited as an associate man here for this thing because the true masculinity.
You have to have a longsword and full battle armour, or at least chainmail to join, don't you?
There is a surprising amount of
Crusading involved.
well-trained men.
I've been invited in as a pygmy associate for the weekend.
But Mr. Baker would probably size up nicely, I think. But yes, but we've been very grateful to the team for coming and giving some wonderful talks and really speaking to authentic Catholic masculinity, about virtue, and indeed from Catherine's point of view, about complementary femininity as well, about the necessary form that each of the sexes takes and how they marry perfectly. So it's been a great weekend, and there's been lots of fire and fraternity and a few beers as well, so it's gone down very well.
It's a great mix of ages, isn't there? There's been some really young people and to Paul Abbott, which is
what's been absolutely wonderful is that we've had fathers bring their sons to this conference, and that's been
you getting close
joy that I was.
There we go. That's
which I hope to repeat myself and bring my sons to this. But yeah, just to see the fact that dads went to bring their sons to learn about being authentic fathers, which I think is what's been missing from a couple of generations in our country. That our fathers have either been war-torn or 60s torn. And yeah, so we're trying to redress that. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
I was
no morning. I was just thinking. Oh, is it? Afternoon. Go on, Gavin.
Well, I was being asked as part of the publicity shoot for why other people should come, what happened on this weekend, and I found myself saying that it was something of a safe space for men. And this is rather funny because of all people who don't need safe spaces, men don't need safe spaces. And yet, the problem with talking about being either a man or a Catholic man in the public space is that it's a bit like if you're not a fully signed up communist, you run the risk of being called a Nazi. If you're not a fully signed up feminist, you run the risk of being called a misogynist. And it's for that reason that you need a safe space where you can explore some of the issues without being harangued and demonized for being the wrong side of the cultural divide. And so we've had a very good time where we've been able to talk frankly and honestly without anyone calling us names. And I've really appreciated that.
So something we try to do is not make this about where men should be politically, but where they should be spiritually.
Yeah.
And it's positioning themselves as we say, as icons of the Father. So trying to reveal God to those around us, those to the left, to the right of us.
Yes, we want to lose left and right, and instead, which are antithetic to each other. You're either left or you're right. But the binary choice in the Catholic Church is between men and women, and we're not set against each other. We're set in conjunction with each other, and that's what Catherine was telling us very vividly.
And quite astonishingly as well, which I think should not be underemphasised, is how Catherine was the first female attendee and speaker at our conferences, so we're absolutely delighted.
She did say she thought she found herself the prettiest woman in the room.
Yeah, it's. But I can officially say I was the most beautiful woman in the room. It's not often I get to say that, but I can. And being invited in this weekend and having a small window, you've got authentic English crows here, everyone. Being invited in this small window into the world of Catholic men. I just came away last night thinking how wonderful it would be if this is how men were, you know, how much women need men like this. And I was able to sit last night as the men prayed and sang together Salve Regina, and sang at the end of Mass today, Faith of Our Fathers, with these booming voices of faith. And it was just wonderful. It's just wonderful. And you think, really, we've become pusillanimous, weak men, wimpy men in our culture. And women don't need that. And ultimately, it won't be able to give women what they need. So I think Catholic Man UK is absolutely necessary for our young men. I was telling my husband to bring our son next year.
And it's I think it's a brilliant setting. I love like the sort of matriculation. It's very much a castle becoming like a home, a Tudor home, isn't it? So
I was going to suggest that you just give a sense of the wonderful setting, and although it's mainly through the gate we just walked, but it's just no.
I think one of the things about this building is that you can see that in Tudor times it was set up for defence, wasn't it? You know, that there's obviously an element of defence. Yeah. So I suppose in those times there was a need to protect yourself in a really sort of militaristic way. And although it's a beautiful house, this is the gatehouse, isn't it? And then there's another house behind there.
Louder.
But it's set in I'm trying.
If the camera person would just tip it back a bit, we'd get a sight of.
I can't see what you can see.
That's what I'm trying to. There we go. That's.
Am I on you? Okay.
Now you are. Keep it at that angle, camera person, woman.
So, and perhaps we'll go and we'll show you the main tower. So there's the main tower, which it's amazing to think that Catherine of Aragon actually walked up those steps. You know that she lived here herself, and obviously there's a great association with St Hugh of Lincoln as well, which is Buckden is a lovely quaint English village, isn't it? So,
and Thomas Wolsey.
Yeah,
you never know what the future's going to hold. One would say to Thomas Wolsey. One day you're Archbishop of York and the papal legate, and the next the king deserts you. Would to God, he said, that he had served his king as he had served his God. No, served his God as he served his king, the other way around. Yes, he got his priorities wrong. We try, on the other hand, we're here to get our priorities right.
Well, I was talking to Paul this morning, and he said that Henry VIII killed 90,000 people during his reign of terror, and you never really hear about that, do you? And he mainly persecuted Catholics, hanged, drawing and quartering them. There's a lot of talk about Bloody Mary, but who burnt people at the stake. But
accept the offer, Mrs. Bennett. Come into the picture, because we
it's men, isn't it?
Well, the sort of men. If a man takes a camera, it's sometimes handled. Well, look at that. Very good.
Oh, it's better. Give it to a man.
So, but on the other hand, we also have, here we are as Catholic Unscripted. So the three of us together. And
well, and you can, so I think if you can sort of tilt it that way a bit, you can see the tower there, and this is a Norman tower on the church, which is St Hugh's Church, I believe. Obviously, pre-Reformation, it would have been Catholic, but now it's
no, it's Anglican.
It's Anglican now.
No, I think that's the Catholic Church.
Oh, it is the Catholic.
It is, yes. No, it remains the Catholic Church.
Right. So, but the centre's run by the Claretians, isn't it? And they took it over I think in the 70s. So they've been running it as a retreat centre. And years and years ago, like maybe 30 years ago, before I had my family, I was bringing kids here on retreat for confirmation from my parish. So that was my first experience of Buckden Towers. So it's a great venue for this sort of thing, and the grounds are beautiful.
Let's maybe walk through and point out to our viewers as we travel. Should we start with this sign, which will show all the significant names that we've been mentioning, historical visitors and residents.
Yeah. You'll stand by the sign, my colleagues. So you talk loudly.
You can see this is the tower in this picture, and the parish church there. So amazing, the English kings, Henry III, Edward I, Henry VIII, James I, and then people like Samuel Pepys as well.
Yeah.
Heretics.
Schismatics. Is that the right word?
Schismatics. The schismatics and heretics after Catherine Howard.
Yeah. If any of our American viewers are seeing this and think you'd like to come over for a fantastic Catholic Men's Conference, do look up Catholic Man UK, and it will be held here again next year at Buckden Towers, and you'll get to... Well, if any of our American viewers are watching this and think we'd love to come to the Catholic Men's Conference in the UK, do look at the website Catholic Man UK, and it will be held here again next year at Buckden Towers, and you can walk these grounds and walk in the footsteps of these people that we've mentioned today, and take in this historic site, and get to spend time with the wonderful Mark Lambert and Gavin Ashenden. I think I've done my bit for Catholic Men, but meet James Leatherland as well. Fantastic.
No, we had a really good time, and the reception from the talks was really good. I think everyone seemed to get a lot out of it. Like I say, I think the thing for me was the breadth of the age range was amazing. So that was it's really good, and the young lads are really having a great time. And I was talking to someone; they were saying to get tips from the older guys, and that was really helpful. So
our youngest attendee this year was young Edward, who was 18 in 3 days.
Oh wow,
very good.
And I suspect Paul might have been the eldest.
Very good.
Attendee, so you can figure out the age there as the span.
Yeah, and also the thing is, there's so few opportunities now for men to be with one another and for women to be together in clubs. As kids are growing up, you used to have cubs and scouts and brownies and single-sex clubs and single-sex schools, and now these are being eroded as women demand to enter male spaces. I think now girls have to be scouts and cubs. The boys can't keep that for themselves, and schools, all the old single-sex schools are now amalgamated, and there's a couple left in London, and they're just amalgamating next year. So it's very difficult for young men to find space to be with boys, to be with other young men, and for girls to be with women. And although, we're not saying we have to live completely separately, there are times where it's important to be together, for young boys to learn what it is to be a man with other men. And especially in our culture where families are breaking apart and young men are growing up without fathers, something like this is really, really important, and gives young men that opportunity to be with men and to learn from them.
That you were saying, and saying very clearly, is that a lot of women have a vocation to be a wife and a mother. But to do that, they need the men to be willing to answer vocations to be husbands and fathers. And so but both men and women in our society have been what we might call androgenized. We've had our are essential, the core of our vocation, stripped from us and turned into a matter of embarrassment. Catherine was talking about the way in which, when she was a teacher, some of the girls came and said, "Mum, Miss, we might want to be STEM scientists, but actually some of us really want to be mothers and wives, but we can't say so. We'll be laughed at and marginalised." But for women to be mothers and wives, they need their men to be willing to be husbands and fathers. And so to restore a Catholic vision of proper humanity, we need each other to answer our true vocations. This is something secular society won't let us talk about, shames us if we explore. And so Catholic women need Catholic men to rediscover their masculinity and their vocations. And that's actually what we've been doing. It's not a kind of gender apartheid. In order to help each other answer our vocations, we have to be faithful to our own. And because of the pressure from secular society, it takes some organising to find places which do have to be safe spaces to be able to do that, to avoid us being mocked, marginalised and diminished by the secular propaganda. So it's been a really great time to be able to do that, I think.
One of the things I'd like to say for this is, although we are calling men to virtue, what we are hoping is that any men who feel that they can't live that life, or that they're struggling with their issues, with their personal lives, with their spiritual lives, and who are really feeling like they've got nowhere else to go, they're our brothers too. And we're trying to reach out to them, to help them find healing, to find the love of our Lord that is just waiting there for them. It's just calling them to Him all the time. And it's one of the things we are finding wonderful is that we have a lot of good priests who come and support us. So there's always sacrament of confession, but also a lot of wise men to speak to, a lot of wise priests.
It was great to see that big queue for confession as well.
It was wonderful, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So don't feel, and I think the whole church has this a little bit. Well, I'm not a saint, therefore I don't belong. So, well, no, we're trying to call you home. Heaven's your home. So, come here and we can go a fraternal route to heaven as well.
I think Sam said on Friday when we arrived, just wait, by tomorrow morning they'll all be talking about their struggles with their relationships, and it was amazing how quickly any sort of barriers broke down, and it became everyone was brothers. A bit of praying together and a bit of singing, and everyone's brothers. And then there were all these amazing conversations. I mean, you and I had an amazing conversation at lunch yesterday. I thought was just the way it ranged, and the things that we were being asked and stuff. It was a real joy, real pleasure to hear those things from other men.
And there aren't many places where, I don't know if is it the fear of being overheard or the fear of not being understood, but there was no fear of being overheard or misunderstood here. And so suddenly, I think probably taking a leaf out of the best practices of therapy. This wasn't therapy; it was fraternal conviviality. But we found ourselves free to talk in a way that some of the things we carried privately required. And it was, I'm sure, with the help of the Holy Spirit. Again, we mustn't underestimate the way in which God goes before us. He makes things possible. The kingdom of heaven, I've always thought, is the right person in the right place at the right time. And there was a lot of the kingdom of heaven here. The right people were in the right place at the right time, saying the right things. And all that, those are the fingerprints of the Holy Spirit. He's gone before you to make all these things possible.
And one of the greatest cancers of our time is the idea that men and women are against each other, are pitted against each other, are enemies, that women should mistrust men and be suspicious of men. What I was trying to say is that women are created in a certain way, different to man, and that this idea of one flesh, that woman finds her form in man. So if you see that woman is born with a womb for motherhood, but she can't realise that on her own without a man. And likewise, a man doesn't just create through a woman, like you might pump medicine through a syringe as if she's irrelevant vessel, but rather with a woman, so that their joint genetic identity is generational. So you generate life together, and that's that idea of one flesh. Now, if you create conditions where a man and a woman think they're enemies, then you literally strip woman of what she has been created to be. You really cannot fulfill that destiny that God has created you for. So we have to recover that realization that we need one another and we're not against one another.
A lot of the discussion centered around virtue, like how to be a virtuous husband, how to be a virtuous father, like the right relationship, how to foster the right relationship, a relationship of sacrifice and sanctity. It's so uplifting, and it's great to be in company with other Catholic men. I think it's so healthy and really good, a really good thing to be sort of engaged in, isn't it?
So a lot of them, what we're talking about as well is that how Christ is the absolute image that we should be focusing on, and we should be trying to be Christ-like to our wives as Christ was for the church. And sometimes that can seem like, well, that's a bit much. And I think a lot of what the church tries to teach us over the years, over the centuries, is that there are simple paths to doing that through prayer. And it's not about, I've said my prayers, therefore I'm holy, but by saying my prayers, I am getting there. So one of the things that we're encouraging the men to do is sometimes a more tangible role model is St. Joseph. Speaks no words, is very, by his actions, is very much something to be represented to. So we're trying to form a little path via the litany of St. Joseph to make each one of those a personal target. How am I doing? To what extent for my family am I a terror of demons, for example? And hopefully that is just a way of just mapping out for men in each way of doing that, as well as using our sort of 4 core aims.
Brilliant.
Good. Right, shall we
I think if we want
wander through, and then I'll just do it as a separate recording. Okay.
Do you want me to hold it, because you've only got lip arms?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. If we just go,
my laptop up there, haven't I? Do you think someone will steal it? No. And my handbag and all my wallet.
Where's your
I'll go and get it.
Yeah.
how did we? That down. See, clever stuff, isn't it? Right, we are recording.
Good. That's all right.
Yeah. So the gatehouse there is like a proper. Would they have had a portcullis or something there? Do you think at some point? Like it's proper.
It's a proper gatehouse.
Yeah, really good.
Too, though, because look, I mean, there's a moat there. So
yes, a moat.
So this is only the first gatehouse. So again, in the medieval motion of defence was you had several barriers to get through. So this is the first one, and it's really quite serious. But you'd still have, if they barricaded where Mrs. Bennet is coming, there's still another gate and a moat and turrets. So splendid English defence systems.
So no one stole your laptop, which is a good sign.
No.
Should we wander around that way? You think? So, we got some. Perhaps we can cut in some pictures as well, because we got some lovely pictures last night. It was a full moon, wasn't it? And over the tower, and all the guys, we lit a big fire out the back, and we were singing, and everything was really. We had a great time. Really good.
That would be perfect, I think.
Yeah, 10 o'clock.
Men in their natural habitat.
Fire. The torches haven't come out yet. And Will and I did a walk all the way around here. You can walk all the way around the outside, and there's a lake over there.
There's a beautiful Tudor car park as well. Yeah.
We're trying to avoid that. So, what was your favourite bit, do you think? Breakfast this morning?
Breakfast this morning was very good. But I think the bit that I remember was the masculine singing of the Salve Regina at evening prayer. There was just something was unleashed. It was almost as if men coming together in front of Our Lady and kneeling in homage to the greatest woman they've ever known. and just, it took us to a different level. And I'm not sure you can explain it theologically or intellectually, but experientially something happened. 40 men kneeling, singing Salve Regina. And I thought, I don't want to get political, but I thought almost, well, maybe this kind of masculine, holy, aspirational bonding hasn't happened since the Crusades.
Yeah.
It was just a sense of men being willing to take responsibility for the struggle in whatever form it comes. And most we see it now as a spiritual struggle rather than a military struggle. But it was very good that we could have men gather together for a spiritual struggle, which is a more sophisticated understanding of what we're called to do than just fighting people. Although we're geared to fight people as
It's funny, isn't it? It's so unusual for groups of men to get together in this way, like with your faith. And there was a lot of talk of that from a lot of the guys. Was the best thing about this Catholic man retreat is just to meet with other Catholic men, and as you say, to feel that you can speak about the faith and everyone's on the same page.
Because we do it with football. I mean, I don't do football, but I mean, rugby, football, sport, men are allowed to get together and be men, and no question. But somehow in the church, there aren't places for that to happen. There's been, for all that we've been promoting the family, you can have an over domesticity. So men need to be allowed out of the domestic sphere in order to be men, and so they can go back into the domestic sphere as men. And we're back to this business of mutuality between men and women. Mr. Bennett, speaking of which,
I love that wall as well. It's got like the arrow slits along the matriculation, and obviously sort of arrow slits along the bottom as well. It's like
no one's getting in here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Maybe you have a message to our viewers in other countries who would love to join Catholic Man UK at a conference, not just for the faith, fraternity and fire that's been mentioned, but for the history and to be part of these grounds.
Because they come back every year, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it was it ceased over COVID, like so many things. But I was invited to speak last year, and I must have said something right because we got invited. But the three of us got invited back this year.
Let's turn 180 degrees so we have that in the background because this amazing, wonderful. There we go. That's where is she? Further. That's the one. There we go.
Very good.
Going out the camera. Yeah.
Hang on. It's the tower just behind your head, Mark. That's what I'm trying to get it. That's it. There we go. That's the picture.
No, the tower's far more important.
There we go. This should be our Catholic unscripted cheese shop. The three of us and one of the nicest towers we've ever seen.
It's a good tower. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's worth coming. I think it's well worth coming for the content. Fantastic camaraderie. Wonderful to have a glimpse of these strong Catholic men singing together, as Gavin said.
to thee till death. We will be true to thee till death.
I think women don't see that enough. They don't see, the nightclub scene, the hookup culture, the way in which men present themselves to women. It's no wonder that there's this pulling apart and this idea that they're pitted against one another. But to see men, I think what's lovely is that idea of to see men submit themselves fully to Christ and draw strength from Christ and then go out to the woman who is asked to submit to their husbands. That's the right ordering, because what woman wouldn't want to submit to a man who has submitted completely to Christ, as Christ submits completely to the Father, and then that mutual love between them. It's not just the love of the Father for the Son, but the mutual love that goes between them, and that is generational. So then it generates the Holy Spirit, that love between them. And so a man who loves Christ, who wants to love his wife as Christ loved the church, of course that's a mission you want to go under, but we don't see that in our culture. So Catholic Man UK, we see these ordinary broken men who are striving for holiness. What I mean is we're all broken, but as James said, it's not about a place for saints and the perfect, but it's about a place for ordinary men to say we are striving to be that husband, that father that we need to be for our wives and children.
Actually, despite the fact that I laughed a bit at your portraying us as ordinary broken men, the point you were making was a very profound one, because all of us carry wounds from the struggle that we've had. This is the world is a place of conflict. The major conflict is fighting our way into the gates of the kingdom of heaven. But there are wounds at every stage, and one of the things that you're quite right, we did discover was that this was a place where people were able to talk about the wounds that had accumulated in the struggle just to grow up, to survive financially, spiritually, emotionally, and to find a place where, in the context, I suppose, right at the apex is sacramental confession, but down a few clicks from sacramental confession, there was the fraternity of men willing to say, well, it's been tough, but together, there's all kinds of things we can do. There was a great sense of togetherness.
One of the ideas that we were discussing around the fire last night was that those of us who have managed to find a way to be financially successful need to help everyone else to be as financially successful as possible, because ultimately we're building the kingdom, and that's really what we need to help each other.
This is a vision of the early church, which found the confidence to have, and the mutuality and the mutual commitment to have all things in common. This is not a form of communism. This is a dynamic of what happens when those people who become the brothers and sisters in Christ learn to care for each other. And it's as you say, it suddenly. It makes what political people try and force on society. It gives the vision its real place, its real hope, which is this communal integrity that the church invites people to enter into and share together.
That's it. It's that right ordering. All that we're seeing in our culture is this falling away from the right order. It's disorder. It's disorder and chaos. And in our faith, we can have our eyes fixed heavenwards and try and restore that order through Christ, who is fully human and fully divine, and brings that together to restore that disorder.
It's been like the best weekend for me, because I got to be with Catholic man side of things, but also with my two best friends, and where we've laughed and sung, and we've had a brilliant time ourselves, haven't we? And prayed. Yeah. Very importantly, teased each other. So I think we should stop filming now, because it's so cold, and I'm such a cold person. I'm starting to shake with the camera.
So do join Catholic Man UK if you can. If you're interested in what you've heard, look up the website and see if you can get yourself a ticket for next year, probably around this time.
But we'd also like to say that if you want to take out a membership, especially a silver membership, which appears to me to offer the very best value for everything we do, then please come onto our website and feel free to join us in this really rather wonderful venture.
Yeah. Right, Mark, back to the fire.
Yeah, let's go.
Still conscience free. How sweet would be their children's face, if they, like them, could die for thee. They love our Father's holy faith. We will be true to thee till death. We will be true to thee till death. Faith of our Father's cherished rest shall win our country back to thee, and through the truth that comes from God, this land shall then indeed be free. Faith of our Father's holy faith, we will be true to thee till death. We will be true to thee till death. Faith of our fathers we will love, both friend and foe in all our strife, and preach thee to us love knows how, by kindly words and virtuous life. Faith of our Father's holy faith, we will be true to thee till death. We will be true to